Welcome everyone to 2022 Heartland Acquisition Center Industry Day for Facilities Maintenance. Today, a team of experts from Region 6 Heartland Acquisition Center, Office of Small Business, PTAC, and MRAS will guide us through an informative training session, how we are partnered for success, to aid you in becoming more successful in doing business with the federal government. I am your host, Amy Stucker. Gary, can you switch to the next slide with the agenda, please?
Good morning. Oh, sorry, I was going to just interrupt. And I'm your co-host, Ethan Farr. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Each presentation will be recorded and shared for on-demand viewing. We will begin recording now. If you would like to see subtitles, you can click on the box in the bottom right. It is titled Subtitles. There will be a Q&A after each session. We will attempt to address all questions. However, due to the tight schedule, any of your questions that are not addressed will be followed up with a Q&A document posted on the Facilities and Construction category Interact page in the days following this event. Also, the presentation slides from today's event will be posted to the Interact page. So if you missed something today, don't panic. You can always check it out later. We encourage you to provide comments and interact with other attendees in the chat area, but please make sure your questions for the presenters are provided in the Q&A box, and that is located at the bottom of your screen. Your questions are important to us, so we don't want to miss one. Let's see. And let's see where we are. Today, all attendees will be in listen-only mode. This helps to ensure a smoother experience for all of us. For those interested, 3 CLPs will be issued to those attending. And now I'll turn it back over to Amy.
Thank you, Ethan. You can also adjust your view using the box at the top right of your screen for optimal viewing. So throughout the event, we'll be asking some polling questions. So please be sure to respond and stay engaged. It's a great way to let us know your feedback. In fact, let's try a poll question now. Gary, can you load the first poll question, and Ethan, take it away.
I'll be happy to. Each poll will be open for approximately 20 seconds. So let's practice our first poll now. In years, how long have you held your multiple award contract? 0 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 9 years, or over 10 years? All right, it looks like, 50% said over 10 plus years. So y'all are experienced. And it looks like 34% is our second ranked, and it is 0 to 3 years. How about that? All right, so let's see. Great job, everybody. It looks like, hey, it was 10 plus years was the highest ranked one. Amy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ethan. And everyone, feel free to close your poll window after each poll. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mary Rui, the Region 6 Regional Commissioner of FAS, the Acting Regional Administrator for Region 6, the Heartland region, and the Category Manager for Government-Wide Facilities and Construction category. In these roles, Mary's leadership drives effective and efficient government and industry interactions to assist agencies in achieving their mission. Mary, you're up.
Hey, Amy and everyone, welcome. Thank you. I'm excited about the meeting today. And, you know, as many of you know, with all the changes in the last 2 years, actually having this virtual allows more of you to attend and get a deeper understanding of the impact that each of you are making across the globe, really. With your expertise in products and services. So welcome. And it's always more fun when we can do happy hour together, but the virtual is hopefully a great experience for you too. The theme this year is Partnered for Success, which speaks to the value partnership that I see that our folks and our vendors have every day. So I want you, our industry partner, our GSA employees, and our customers to be successful. So this is in line with a key priority, and that is to deliver excellent, equitable federal services and a customer experience. So every time you interact with a customer, whether it's cleaning a facility or delivering a product, whether you're a multiple word schedule vendor or the building maintenance and operations contract vendor, you are helping our customers achieve their mission. And that's our number one priority. That's why we're here and why we were developed as an agency. So this afternoon, you have a packed agenda. And so you'll be hearing and learning about all of the great things from the acquisition center, our business development, and other parts of GSA, what they can do to help you achieve success and be even more successful. So in Region 6 here in the Heartland, we are partnered for success. We're thrilled to have you as industry partners. And I hope you enjoy the session. And I'm going to be learning here right along with you and listening and sharing. So Amy, you are the host, and co-host Ethan Fair. So they're going to help move you through this wonderful day. And so you can go out and wow our federal customers. So Amy, back to you.
Thank you, Mary. It is now my pleasure to introduce Teresa McCarthy. She's the Heartland Acquisition Center Director. Teresa has a power-packed 10 minutes of wonderful things going on in the Acquisition Center to assist our contract vendors. Teresa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome everyone. Big robust welcome from the Midwest. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day, and it's certainly been a highlight of my day to get on and talk to you all. Next slide, please. The agenda this morning, I'm going to take just a few minutes to touch on the state of the center. I need to talk about mass advantage shipping, some supply chain issues, some mass vendor sales tracking, and an introduction of our new personnel. Now that looks like a pretty packed 10 minutes, and it is, but I'm not going to hit on some of the items at length. They'll be discussed further on in the briefings. And I did want to bring your attention to some of these things as we do go through the day. So what are we doing in partnership to make you successful and to make us successful as well? We've had some tremendous changes in the personnel of HAC. We had, since the last industry day, we've had 7 associates either retire or move on to other opportunities. But we've also been fortunate enough to hire 11 new associates. And I'm going to have the real pleasure of introducing them to you at the end of my little briefing. So you'll get to meet some of the people you'll be talking to on the phone. We've got some great talent. We've got some folks that are brand new to the contracting community. And we've got some folks that are very seasoned professionals that have been contracting specialists and officers for a while that can jump right in and help us to make our mission. One of the highlights too I wanted to mention, or one of the highlights of the personnel, is that Janet Schweer, who used to be the HAC deputy, has taken a position as Mary Rui's deputy, as Deputy Regional Commissioner, leaving that slot open for a gentleman by the name of Tyler Sykes to step in. Tyler is a dynamite. He's dynamo. He comes from the supply side of the house. He's an internal hire. But if you see Tyler Sykes' name on things, that's what's happened. Tyler Sykes is our new deputy. With that, just a few minutes on state of the center as far as financials. Don't want to go in way deep, but Mass had a good year last year. We finished at about 16% of FY20 with the sales at 1.6 billion. BMO also had a good year, up 42% from FY20 sales at about 88 million. Unfortunately, supply was down last year at 13.4%, but with the heavy and positive sales on the Mass side, the center finished out in a really good positive position. Just talk to you a little bit about mass advantage shipping. This has been an initiative that's been going on for a while, and I really want to praise all of you that are really making this initiative and this endeavor come to fruition. We've made some gains. We were struggling last year as far as the mass advantage shipping compliance issues. This year, we're doing better. As a whole, GSS total ship percent of lines sent was at 78.2%, and Region 6 is tracking at about 75.1%. And that's attributed to hard work by all of you to make sure this initiative works. and our customers are seeing what they want to see and getting the information that they need. As far as GSS total compliance percent line shipped, GSS was at 85%, and Region 6 is tracking at 82%. Now we have, for the majority of everyone are doing very well. We've got 4 vendors that are struggling, and we're on the phone with them trying to help them to get our percentages up there so we can be above average in GSS. And we've got 1 vendor that's really struggling, has not been able to put this initiative in place successfully, but we're working with them, and I know they're working hard to go ahead and increase their compliance rates. Supply chain issues. I know that we all know that inflation is here. I've talked to many of you about supply chain issues as far as transportation costs, raw material costs, manufacturer increases in prices, etc. The message here is that we hear you, and we are working with central office, and they are working with several senior organizations to try to provide some relief as far as the EPAs are concerned and whatnot. We can't guarantee anything, but we are gathering information and data and submitting that forward to see if we can't help on the EPA side of the issue the best we can. So you are being heard. It's just a tough time that we're in, and we'll all get through it, but we are working to make sure that you're successful as well. And lastly, before I have the fun of introducing all of my new personnel, I want to talk to you a little bit about mass vendor sales tracking. In 2023, there's going to be a change to the way that the mass profit and loss statements are written. Now, what does that mean to you? It just means that we are asking you, because mass profit and loss accountability is going to be held at the SIN level. So that there's a change with that. It will no longer just be going to the center that cuts the contract. As far as your sales data is concerned, sales data will be going to the SIN level, which is also tied to the contracting office that does the work. But what that means to you is, and this maybe seems a little confusing, we're going to have some education on that, and that's my real point here, bringing up to the fact that I would ask you to take the opportunities to get on any mass PMO training sessions about SIN and accountability for sales, the SIN level, because unless we can have accurate data at the SIN level, we won't be accredited the amount of sales that our center would have earned as a result of the direct work that they put on your contracts. So there's going to be more information on that. I know you're all reporting these, and I know you're all doing a good job, but it really is going to be even more important in FY 2023 and out years to make sure that you are accurately reporting at the SIN level your sales. Mass PMO is going to have some information on interact pages, and there'll be some office hours held in order to go over this. So that's probably a little confusing, and I'm trying to get this all out to you fast. I'm shotgunning it at you, and I apologize for that, but I'm trying to get all this stuff in so that you can be in the know, and we all can be successful at this great mission that we have. Now the fun part, introduction of new personnel. I did say that we had 11 new people join us, and I'm going to go, I have a slide for each person. Next slide, please. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about each one of these new professionals that we have joining HAC. And the first one, also our co-host today for today's Industry Day and doing a fine job at that, is Ethan Farr. Ethan's from Florence, Alabama. He joined GSA through the GSA START program in November 2021. He's a contract specialist in math. He has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from the University of North Alabama, with a concentration in finance and his 5+ years in financial management before starting with GSA. About Ethan, he loves to travel, run, bike, read, volunteer, and challenge himself to learn new things. Right now, he's focusing on advancing his language skills in German, French, Spanish, and learning a few classical piano pieces. I don't think Ethan has any downtime. And as you can see, we've brought in some very talented people, and Ethan's one of them. Next slide. Kylie Perez. Kylie's from Waynesville, Missouri. Joined GSA in 1102 through the GSA START program in June of 2021. He's a contract specialist in the supply branch. So it's the Special Operations Program in Tool. She has experience from the Dental Health Command in Europe, S1 Human Resources, and I can't pronounce it, from Italy, and graduated from the University of Arizona. About Kylie, she has a husband named Brandon and 2 little boys, Banner and Cohen, who keep her very busy at the moment. She loves the outdoors, traveling and visiting wineries, breweries, and all over the world. When time allows, she likes to homebrew and experiment with different grains and flavors. And I also love not only playing, but also watching sports, Roll Tide. And it's unfortunate we could have had a good place to go for happy hour, because Kylie probably knows where she could have sent us in Kansas City with all her experience visiting wineries and breweries and et cetera. I could have had some sort of cold beverage. Next slide. Janet Reed. Janet from Lewisburg, Kansas. She joined GSA on 3 January 2022 from Garmin International. She's a supply specialist in our engineering and cataloging and customer service support branch. She's in the engineering section. She's had 7 years with the Postal Service, 8.5 years with GSA on the technical writing team of the contracting company. And Janet, she has a Missouri Foxtrot that she's training for trail riding. And Janet comes to us. She's worked with the center for quite a few years, as you can see, as a technical writer, and brings a lot of wealth and technical experience with her, and we're really enjoying having her on our team. Next slide. Jerry Tuttle. Jerry is from Las Cruces, New Mexico. He joined GSA from New Mexico State University with an MBA in agribusiness. He's also a contract specialist with the MASS program. He was hired through the GSA START program in November of 2021. He likes to travel, be outdoors, especially near water or mountains, and around friends. We've got some great folks that have joined us, and Jerry's one of them. Next slide. Kenneth Finley. Kenneth from Kansas City, Missouri. Joined GSA from the University of Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. He's a contract specialist in the supply branch for MRO. His experience, he was hired into GSA in June of 2021 through the GSA START program. And Kenneth enjoys spending time outdoors wherever possible. Most evenings, they're binge watching TVs with his wife and our corgi. And Kenneth brings to us some technical abilities that we needed in the organization. And he's also made from programs that have made our work that much more efficiently by automating it. And so we're looking for great things from Kenneth as well as the other new associates. Next slide. Jesse Olson from Kalispell, Montana. Joined GSA from the University of Phoenix through the GSA STAT program in October of 2021. Jesse was prior law enforcement while earning a master's in business administration. Jesse loves to travel, and he resides in Montana. And the winters are cold. I always like to take a vacation somewhere warm for a few weeks a year. So Jesse doesn't want to come to Kansas City today. It's a little chilly today, but he's got some great adventures he talks to us about, and we're looking forward to hearing many more. Next slide. Audra Harrison. Audra's from Overland Park, Kansas. She joined the Heartland Acquisition Center in November of 2021. Audra is a contracting officer in the MASS program, brings many years of experience with her. She moved from GSA PBS. She has 12 years of experience. And a little bit about Audra, Halloween is her favorite holiday, and she works at the Halloween haunt in the Vamp House. I would have been scared, Audra. That's a pretty awesome picture. Next slide. Cole Gregory from Leavenworth, Kansas. He joined GSA from the Department of VA in September 21. He's a contract specialist with the MASS program. He has over 5 years of civil service, 4.5 years in 1102. And she loves baking, pies, cookies, and breads, and spending time with her grandkids. A lot of experience in these folks that we've hired that are contracting professionals. They're already producing, and we're very fortunate to have them all. Next slide. Laura Shukan from Maryville, Missouri. Joined GSA from Creighton University School of Law. She's a contracting specialist with the MASS program. She hired into GSA through the GSA Start program in November 2021. And Lauren, she's been playing the clarinet for the past 17 years and in the process of improving my piano and tenor saxophone playing. We have many talented, just a variety of talents in our new people that come in, and it's so much fun just learning about them. I've enjoyed putting these slides together and learning myself all the unique and intricate things that people have and that they're doing. This is wonderful information. So welcome to Lauren. Next slide. Charlotte Ford. Charlotte's from Kansas City, Kansas. Joined FAST from PBS, the Public Building Services. She's a contracting officer in the MASS program. Also comes with us with a wealth of experience. 13 years of service as an 1102. She loves to garden. She has 2 greenhouses in the garden. She grows flowers, vegetables, fruits, and herbs. We have very busy people. Busy people are happy people. She's doing a great job for us, and she's working partly on the BMO contract, and she's doing a super job. Next slide. Penny Katz. Penny's from St. Joseph, Missouri. She joined GSA from the Department of Veterans Affairs in March of 2021. She's a contracting specialist with the MASS branch. She has 10 years as an 1102. She loves to run, play tennis, and spend time with family and friends. And Penny's another one that's got great technical background and jumping right in and making our program successful. Next slide. And that is what I had for you. Now, how does this fit into partnering for success? All these new people are going to be there for you when you need them. We have our junior folks are being trained. We have an extensive training program to get them up to speed. And we're there for you. And I thought it was important to take the time to introduce these wonderful new associates, everybody. So please feel free to introduce yourself to them and reach out to them. And we've got a strong team, but we're building a stronger one. And with that, I'll turn it back to Amy. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Teresa, for that great information and for sharing everyone with us. If we didn't get to your question, don't worry. We'll follow up with a response in a Q&A document to be released following this event. Okay, let's try another poll question. What is the main part of your business development strategy? Target expiring contracts, responding to e-buy, or responding to open market bids and providing scheduled benefits? You have 20 seconds.
Gary, my poll went away. Do you have the results of that? There you go.
All right. It looks like, 48% is responding to e-buy, and the second highest was responding to open market bids. All right. Amy, I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Great. Now for our next presentation by Larry Fodovich. Larry is actually a business development specialist in the customer and stakeholder engagement division. And many of you may have actually worked with Larry in the past. Larry's going to provide you information on how to grow your government business. Let's take it away, Larry. Larry, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. That happens every time. How's that? So anyway, nice to see all of you again, and I'm sure we've met in person in the previous years. I hope we get back to that place and we could all get together again. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump into my slides. I'm going to go dark for a little bit, and then I'll see you on the other end so we can both focus on the slides. So, okay. So a few years ago, we reorganized into territories, and most of those territories consist of one or more regions. My region is, as you can see, 1, 2, and 3. And then, of course, you can use this map as a reference when you get the slides, but just take a look at your business development person. And then next slide, Gary. And then here is all the contact information for them. Of course, the business development specialist position is sort of a link between the customers and the vendors. And then, of course, we also work with Heartland Acquisition Center to help define the objectives of those SINs and kind of fine tune the vendors that we're hopefully onboarding and how we can train them to answer those solicitations. Next slide, Gary. And this is another informational slide that just gives you the different facilities and industrial products and services SINs. Next slide. This is probably one of the more important slides of my presentation. This is the spend under management and contract efficiency model. As you can see in the pyramid, the single-use non-category aligned contracts are at the bottom of the pyramid. And you can kind of look at the yardstick to the right. And as you go up that pyramid, you can see that the contracts are more efficient. Of course, Schedules is a tier 2 vehicle. So it's a multi-agency, multi-use contract. And then, of course, our BMO vehicle is a best-in-class contracting vehicle. But you can kind of describe these, I think, to your customers as sort of a green way of contracting. These contracts at the very top that, like Schedules and BMO, are recyclable effectively. You know, you make them once and you use them multiple times, whereas the one at the very bottom, of course, is a throwaway single-use contract. And even the one above that, which are probably agency IDIQs, they are also not as efficient, of course, as Schedule. And, you know, I think in March of 2019 is when OMB rolled this criteria out. And the contracting officers, as far as I know, are being graded on how efficient their contracting vehicle use is. So this is something really to lead with as you talk to contracting officer customers, and just remind them that, you know, they may not be using the most efficient contracts, neither from a workload environment or possibly as well as the pricing that they're getting. Next slide, Gary. Of course, there's 2 ways to go after new business, and I saw that many of you are exercising one or the other, hopefully both, in either answering solicitations from eBuy, and then I saw, I think 40% of you are also looking at open market ops. Of course, we hope you're successful regardless of whether it's on Schedule or you know, just other government contracting opportunities such as open market. But as you can see, and by the way, this slide, you can see there's a link at the bottom when you receive your copy of it. And it'll take you to GSA's D2D website, and then you can go to the category tab and see this information. But what I wanted to show you, that at least when it comes to facilities and construction, I think we're as a group at maybe 13% of market, as opposed to the 87% of other vehicles that are used. And so you can either just respond to those eBuy solicitations, or you can actually go out, in addition to bidding on the open market ones, you could hopefully convert some of these and get them early enough so that contracting officers will be reminded to use the Schedule as a more efficient vehicle. A lot more opportunities, of course, in the open market realm than there are necessarily in eBuy. And we really need your help as well as, you know, our efforts to convert those. Of course, we have a whole group of customer service directors out in the field. They're located in geographically, and they're able to meet with contracting officers or do webinars with them. And they're also out there converting, along with our national account managers, converting those opportunities, hopefully, to from open market to scheduled purchases. Okay, next slide, Gary. Of course, by the way, I've been in sales for most of my life. I've been with GSA for 6 years. So outside sales and most of it commission. So of course, I'm always looking, or was always looking, for those kinds of opportunities to open doors, and any reason you can give a customer for helping them see something that they didn't previously know, or give them a tool that they can use, I think is always beneficial. So each one of these links goes to some what we call slip sheets that you can send out to your customers. It might also help you with your understanding of how the schedule program works. We even have some that are specifically tailored to energy services, which is a really hot topic right now. And of course, we have them for both services and products. So next slide, Gary. I thought I left, might have added another slide. Go ahead and flip through one real quickly there. Oh, guess not. Okay, going back, if you don't mind, Gary. So this is the ordering guide. It's a 20-page reference. I always found it useful in talking with customers to kind of know how they think, know what parameters they're using to make those decisions, and this this tool actually helps you kind of know those various components. Just as an example, it'll tell you things like planning the acquisition, defining the requirements, issuing the solicitation, evaluating proposals, and then awarding the task order. So you can either use it for your own intel, or also to open a few doors and educate your customers on those scheduled purchases and what that process looks like. Next slide, Gary. Okay, this is a more detailed view of that. It's 104 pages, and whereas the other one was sort of a how-to and why, this is more of a, what you can and can't do and when you should and shouldn't do things. And as you can see from that one panel there, that this particular page discusses the different requirements for different thresholds of spend. So when they will need to actually just go out and solicit it formally, or when they can just check with 2 or 3 vendors to get an idea of the pricing for that requirement. Next slide, Gary. We've also produced some videos. We have a Heartland Acquisition Center YouTube playlist. The first 2 videos are ones that pertain to MRFS is the first one. And then the second one is more for our facility sends. And then there's also a couple things about GSA's, oops, sorry about that. Oh yeah, sorry. The third video there is how to use the MRFS contracting vehicle. And then the fourth one is about one of our success stories in converting a really large Army Corps of Engineers opportunity to schedules. Next slide, please. And by the way, the link is on that page when you get your copy. Okay, this slide I kind of put together. Hopefully it makes sense. The little blurb off to the right is sort of an internal mission statement. And as you can see, we want to establish GSA as a premier provider of efficient and effective acquisition solutions across the federal government. Some of you may, I think 30 some odd percent have been been schedule awardees for less than 3 years, I think, from that first poll. And you may have found yourself at the top rung without having completed some of the other steps up the ladder. So if you're, not meeting the minimums of 25,000 for the first 2 years in sales, and then 25,000 for the third and successive years, then you might want to retrace your steps. A lot of times, there are third parties that assistants, I guess, that find the vendors before we can give them good advice, and they maybe couch the schedule contracting vehicle as a golden ticket instead of a license to fish. So, in talking with a lot of vendors over the years, I found that quite a few of them started in the state, local, and education contracting markets. Many of them were 8A, and of course they got sole source and then competitive awards. A lot of them have multiple small business set-asides that are available to them. And then as you go up the ladder, you're probably closer to the large business categories, and many of those started as subcontractors, and then open market as primes, and then maybe to agency IDIQs, and then finally on the schedule. So again, if you're not successful, try to retrace some of those steps and hopefully open a few doors that way. Next slide. SAM.gov, of course, was an improvement, a big improvement over FedBizOps.gov. It's a lot more intuitive now, easier to use. You can save searches just like before, but I think they're better now. And this is, of course, the easiest way to see the opportunities out there that may be available for converting to from open market to schedules contracting purchases. Next slide, please. Here's a slightly more detailed view of a search that I started and saved. And if you look over to the left at the bottom, you can see that I was targeting sources sought and pre-solicitation. Of course, these are early stage acquisition decisions by the contracting officer, and they kind of guide whether that contracting officer will, may continue with open market solicitations or an open market solicitation, or actually go to the schedule. I've seen probably as many opportunity wins out there where a contracting officer started with an open market solicitation, could not get enough responses, and then went to schedules, as I've seen, starting with schedules and then having, because of the same reason, to have to go to open market. So that's the kind of the point of the process I would target, are those first two early stages. And as you can see, if you look just below the facilities ops at the top of that slide, you can see that there's over 1,500 opportunities in those results. So lots of opportunities out there for facilities. Of course, you can do the same thing for products as well. Next slide, please. That's kind of to sort of tee up the next. Well, I'll tell you what. Go into the next slide, if you would, Gary. Keep going. I think I've one more, please. Okay. Let's use this one first. So some characteristics of successful GSA scheduled vendors. This is anecdotal information over years of speaking with vendors and kind of learning how they got to where they were and maybe how to help them. But one problem I've seen a lot is companies that want to stay local. There's just probably not enough opportunities for you to be successful if you don't widen the scope. So, of course, go after those opportunities that are close by, but don't hesitate to also bid on opportunities that are a little further away from you. And hopefully you'll expand nationwide. those successful vendors also leverage their small business socioeconomic status and experience, particularly 8A. That's where a lot of people start and gain success. We found that a lot of these vendors have relationships with other companies and other locales, which complement their own services and socioeconomic status. I've seen some vendors that act as sort of a bird dog and find opportunities that they know they're not qualified for, but they find the socioeconomic partner in that locale, and they'll even take a subcontracting role just to have found that opportunity and do part of the acquisition. I mean, part of the service for that acquisition, and let the local company get the bigger share as they are required. Most of the time, the successful vendors have a sales staff or dedicated project managers who, as their primary role, routinely respond to RFIs and RFQs. So that's a big thing. I mean, going after commercial business is probably quite a bit different than government business. There's a lot more paperwork involved, I've got to believe, and you really need somebody that's focused 8 hours a day on going after that business. And then the next bullet, most of our vendors that are successful have past experience having won open market contracts before becoming a GSA vendor. Of course, it's okay if you haven't, there's no harm there, but just try to retrace those steps, as I mentioned, if you're not successful. And then, of course, lastly, they scour SAM.gov or other business intelligence or CRM applications to convert those open market solicitations to RFQs on eBuy. Might also mention that there are some third-party applications out there. If you don't know how to use SAM.gov, there are plenty of other companies that have distilled down versions of SAM.gov, and they also provide a more customer relationship management portal, so you can record some of your interactions with your customers while you're actually working those opportunities. And I think one of our next panelists from the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers will address that. So let's go back up let's go 3 slides back up, if you don't mind, Gary. Thank you. Okay, so and this is kind of to tee up those next presenters. This is something, it took me years to really figure out how, because I had no prior government contracting experience, but just to figure out how all these pieces, and all these entities that we throw around daily with abbreviations, acronyms, how they all work together. And so I created this really to help myself, but hopefully it also helps you. But as you can see, the PTAC, and you'll hear about that, I think, next, is probably the most, they're the Swiss Army knife of assistance for any vendors, small businesses or large businesses. And so they're the gray area of that circle. And then the line going across the middle divides small businesses from other than small business. And then the vertical line is open market versus schedules. And then the various circles are these things that all seem to relate together, but you're not really sure how. On the right, of course, in the blue circle is schedules. And the other 2 slides, we'll just dispense with those, but these are, probably not exactly representative of the slice of that category, of those categories, but they kind of get the point across, I think, that GSA's schedule doesn't really have a preference in principle for small business or other than small business. The way it's lined up, I think 80% of our schedule awardees or a database of vendors are small businesses, and that probably means that we need also more large businesses to complement that, since the small business goal is 23%, I think it is. But so that circle would probably be skewed downward a little bit to small businesses. The yellow circle is the SBA. They of course are all about small business, so they don't overlap into the large businesses. But they probably, I'm guessing, don't have a great deal of preference for whether it's open market or schedule. They just want all small businesses to be successful one way or another. And then you have GSAs, what I like to refer to them as sort of our in-house SBA. They are, totally focused on small business utilization. And I think in a perfect world, since there are, within GSA, I think they would like it if we could do mostly mass contracts and awards, but of course, I think they're here to help you get, the small businesses get as much of either as they can. So I think go ahead and scroll through about 3 slides there. It's really, yeah, keep going. And I think I'm at the end. Any questions?
Thank you, Larry. We do have just a few questions here.
Sure.
First one is, it was mentioned earlier about mass vendor sales tracking at the SIN level in fiscal year 23. Today, we report at the SIN level. What will be changing? Also, does this mean that the clients will be identifying the SIN for which they are placing an order?
Ooh, that sounds like a contracting officer question.
Teresa, was that something that you had mentioned in your presentation about the SIN? Can you answer that?
Sorry. Can you hear me?
I can,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Yes, I don't think, as far as, if I understood the question correctly, there's going to be any changes to what the vendor has to do as far as reporting this at the SIN level. It's just there's going to be an increased emphasis on it because of the way the mass P&L is being rolled out. So that's why it's easy sometimes just to take things for granted and just use a bigger number or an easier SIN to charge it to go ahead and track your sales data. But we just asked, and my ask was that we just be diligent to make sure that we're correct on those so that all of the centers can be credited for the work they were doing so that we can resource accordingly. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
I think it did. Thank you, Teresa.
Yep.
Thank you.
It helps. Okay.
We have time for probably a couple more questions, maybe.
Okay, we have just one more question. And this is kind of a long one, Larry. So, okay. This is regarding the trend that they are seeing both with BMO and scheduled contracts. They are seeing multiple separate contracts that are being grouped together as one very large, complex contract going over 5 years to 10-year contracts. This is bigger, more complex contracts that qualify larger small businesses and effectively disqualify many capable smaller companies. So it gives a massive advantage to the larger small businesses. This change added to the increase in duration creates many less available contracts to bid for true small businesses. I understand this helps consolidate administration work for the government, but this makes it's so much more difficult for small businesses to keep current contracts, also to win new contracts. Do you all have insight into this trend?
I've heard of that happening. I don't know if I know enough about contracting to know, why it might be happening. So I guess I'll phone a friend on this one as well. Do we have any contracting officers that would like to take a guess at that one?
Hi, Larry. This is Teresa again.
Uh-huh.
We are looking at, the government is looking at
Teresa, you're on mute.
Am I on now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Good. Yeah, there has been some word and there has been some activities about consolidating some of those contracts, but there's also a lot of focus and great effort being put into making sure that small businesses have a say and have a place in these big procurements.